Welcome back, everyone. All right, so we're here today. I'm actually excited to bring this episode to y'all. So this episode is going to be 3 financial mistakes that I'll never make again. Learning early on in life, so that way I can build, knowledge, and I can build experience, so I don't make the same mistakes. So I'm gonna go over 3 financial mistakes that I felt like I made, and then kind of break down why I feel like they're a mistake and how I learned from that mistake. But of course, before we get started with the episode, we got to do the intro. So I hope everyone enjoyed their Easter Sunday last week. Hope everyone enjoyed time with their family and their friends and their loved ones, going out with the kids and all that, and just enjoying the nice day. So I know it was nice weather here. So yeah, man, definitely enjoy those memories, just because those are priceless for sure. Miami is play-in bound again. So this is, of course, another year as a Heat fan where we're going through the play-in gauntlet. Miami went to the play-in gauntlet last year where they made it out and they got destroyed first round by Cavs. So I'm not really looking to, play in the playoffs this year as a Heat fan. I think, just exit out. We don't really have our pick this year because I believe that pick is now owned to the Hornets. So I guess we really have nothing to lose, but end of the day, Miami got a lot to do over the offseason. I don't know how many times you run it back with the same core and get the same results and expect something different. Ever since Jimmy left, definitely tell the team's not the same. You gotta make Bam that second to third option. Like, Bam cannot be a first option. I think Bam is best suited as a third option behind 2 scorers or 2 superstars. That's just my opinion, but of course, I'm gonna tune in, watch the playoffs. OKC, man, they're looking good. Nuggets, they're starting to look good. Lakers without Luka and AR, I don't really see them getting out the first round, but they play the Rockets. So if the Rockets end up getting out the first round, I think they're going to get bounced second round. I just think the top teams for me out of the West is going to be Spurs, OKC, and Denver. In the East, Detroit. I honestly have Detroit and Boston, to be honest. I don't think Knicks is better than them. The Sixers could be a sneaky pick, but I don't really see that coming to fruition this year. Tatum's back. That definitely doesn't look like himself 100%, but 80% Tatum's still better than most of the leagues. Interested to see how the playoffs is going to unwind, so definitely ready to tune into that. As you know, the war it continues in Iran. The war, not the war, it's a war. In my opinion, it's definitely a war. Just because you're saying it's not a war, we're doing acts as war, so it's definitely war. You don't talk peace treaties and things like that if you're not in a conflict or at a war. So that's just my opinion on it. It's been real interesting is like the market. So we saw a big dip in the market over the past couple weeks, and then now we're seeing a rebound with the market, which doesn't really make sense. The only the reason because oil's still high, inflation's still on the rise. So it's just unprecedented to see the market move like this when there's so much risk that's tied around the market. So I'm interested to see how it plays out. Really, y'all know how it is. Keep your plan. Keep going in, dollar averaging in to the market when you can. Even any amount definitely grows over time. But yeah, if you're waiting for a collapse or a major pullback, we haven't seen it yet. What we saw the lowest this year hit, S&P was down 6-7%, which is still like not even correction territory, honestly. So it's just, I don't know. The best thing you can really do is just stick to your plan. Don't buy in at all time highs and get in when you can, because it's a roller coaster of a ride right now. And it's kind of unclear where we're going to go. It's kind of unclear how long this conflict or this war is going to last in Iran. So I'm just sticking to my plan and just putting in where I can. Okay, of course, we don't touch that, which we're actually going to go here later in the video. 3 financial mistakes that I made. And yeah, inflation's on the rise, obviously mostly due to gas prices recently, due to the conflict over in Iran. The Strait of Hormuz is still closed. Trump is talking about, fully blockading the Strait of Hormuz until a deal is reached. But you got to think about it. If you're Iran, why would I give up authority of the Strait of Hormuz when I'm not in a position to essentially give it up. Iran knows, they have two options. They either got to nuke them or put boots on the ground, which doesn't, neither really sounds like a good plan in my opinion. Where, Trump is pressing for the Strait of Hormuz to open up, but it was open just fine, back in February. So I don't know. What I do know is inflation is on the rise. Grocery inflation did cool down a bit, so that's good. We're still hovering pretty high grocery bills right now, but it did cool down the last report. So this is really just something we need to monitor over the next couple of weeks because, as you guys know, the Feds, they're not going to cut rates just because they want to see how the data plays out. So usually when rate cuts happens, it helps businesses, they can buy and borrow at a cheaper price. So when that happens, that's when you see, the market react to the positive news of the rate cut. It's going to be interesting to see what we do towards the end of the year. Do we finish positive? Do we finish negative? I don't know. But if we do finish negative, just know that was a buying opportunity for you. So if you are, really interested in getting in, even right now, if I had $1,000, I wouldn't throw the whole 1,000 in there. If I need to invest, I'd probably put in 250. See where the market goes over the next couple of weeks and kind of put in 250 until I hit that 1,000. Then I'll start doing my normal contributions. That's how I would play the market right now. If I were just getting started. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. One of the things that I'm getting into is actually stock options. So I'm starting to learn now. I'm not going to do this for quite some time just because I need to learn, get more educated on it, understand the risk behind it, understand what goes into it, understand what to look for, understand where to buy in, where to get out. And also I still have my plan on paying down my debt, and I have a couple other plans coming up for the house. So that's where I need to kind of focus my money right now. But again, if the market does take a turn for the worse, then we revisit that, right? So, you can tweak your plan a little bit. Of course, right now, when we're hovering around all-time highs, to me, there's really no point of throwing so much extra money into the market right now. But if you see that 10, 12, 15, 20 plus % dip, then yeah, 100%. There's just no question about it. I'm going to throw it in. One stock I've been keeping an eye out on is Microsoft. Looking around with Microsoft, they are hovering around the same price point for the past year now. They did hit up to, I believe, 555 was their 52-week high, and they're well below that. So I think Microsoft's one of those companies that's here to stay. So, with that being said, I think Microsoft's one of those plays where, I think I'm going to buy it in a little bit, and I'm going to monitor Microsoft, and I'll see where it goes, because I think if they can nail down the Copilot, they can nail down the AI infrastructure, what they got going on with the data computing space, I think Microsoft's going to take off. It's a powerhouse of a company. It's been here for a long time, and I think it's going to be here for a long time. But with that being said, we're going to get started. 3 financial mistakes that I'll never make again, and I hope you guys enjoy the knowledge. Disclaimer: the information provided on this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered as financial advice. We are not licensed financial professionals, and any opinions shared are based on personal experiences and research. As always, do your own due diligence and consult with a certified financial advisor or professional before making any investment decisions. All right, so financial mistake number 1, using my 401k to take out a loan. Now, I did know at the time I shouldn't withdraw out my 401k because withdrawing just eliminates everything. But taking a loan out, I essentially have to pay myself back plus interest. So that's kind of how I factored this in. Long story short, took out a 401k loan to pay for the rest of my wedding. Now, the wedding was amazing. The day was amazing. The experience was amazing. If we're talking just financial side of things, right? If we're just talking about financial literacy side of things, it would have made sense to take out a loan somewhere else instead of taking a loan out the 401k to finish paying what I need to pay off. And here's why. Because the loan I took out, when you do that, it eliminates the compounding interest towards the fund, whatever you take out, right? So at the time, I didn't have much in there, but at the time I took out 50%, So whether it's a lot of money or not, 50% is still a big chunk of growth that's coming out. So, but what I'm starting to learn is, what people do is they actually do borrow against their assets. So they can borrow against the 401k loan. They can borrow against their HELOC. They can borrow against their stocks. They can borrow against their life insurance policy if you have whole life insurance. So there's a lot of places and a lot of things that people can do to borrow against their assets, and it makes sense because you don't pay taxes on a loan or debt, right? So in that aspect, that makes sense. Now, if I would have pulled out my 401k to possibly make additional money somewhere else, like in real estate, then that would probably make sense. The down payment, have the capital do that, and start building equity that way, right? So debt isn't necessarily bad. It's just kind of how you use it. So you got to think of your opportunity cost. And at that point, I really wasn't thinking about it, and it tended to work itself out. I was able to get disciplined and stay true to my plan I set for myself. But all in all, it's just one of those things where it's just a learning experience. I'd rather do it young, I guess, to get it out the way, pay it back, and then just let it grow on its own and just don't touch it. So my plan now is just, if I don't need to touch my 401k, that's what I'm going to try to do, is not touch it at all and just let it organically grow over time while still, putting in my employer's match. So there is a risk to the 401k though, right? So say if you pulled out your 401k and you took a loan, if you got released, fired, if you quit your job while you actively have that loan, you A, have to pay it back in full right then and there, or B, the IRS is going to treat that as a withdrawal and they're going to tax you and penalize you against that money. So when you're taking out this loan, you got to make sure, one, you have job security, two, this is your career, and three, you are a disciplined worker. Because if you take out 20K on a loan and you leave, or they let you go, or you got laid off, you are subject to either pay that back or take that as a withdrawal. And taking that as a withdrawal come tax time, you're going to owe endless tax money. Just, do your research before actually looking into these things, because, taking out that loan, missing a payment, or taking out that loan, well, it comes out your check, so you can't really, I guess, miss the payment, but at least it comes out mine. I don't know how other employers do it. I'm assuming they would do it very similar to make sure they get the money back to pay the loan. But just be mindful, and just try not to tap into your 401k unless you absolutely have to. Mistake number 2. All right, so mistake number 2 for me is buying a home without knowing what all comes with having a home. Of course, when I was going through the process, me and my wife was going through the process, we obviously knew rent, mortgage, utilities, things like that, right? You got to mow your own grass, you got to do this, X, Y, and Z. Now, one thing I did not know at the time was how expensive it was to maintain a home, to keep it in, good condition. It's very expensive because anything breaks, it's on you. I didn't know that, if whoever you're going through your insurance with, your homeowner's insurance, if, something were to happen with that company and the premiums go up, that does affect, that definitely affects your mortgage. Looking back at it now, I'm like, that obviously makes sense. But again, like at the time of buying a house, I didn't really think of it that way. I was just thinking of not paying $1,800 in rent for a townhouse, so I'd rather just own a house. It was kind of my thought process. Another thing is taxes. So one, yeah, you can write off the some of your house with the interest that you pay throughout the year, but I did not know that you can't take that with the standardized deduction. It has to be itemized. So when you're going to file your taxes, you still want to keep your tax information for your house that year. But if you're doing the standard deduction, then you're not entering your house information. You have to itemize your deductions for that. Didn't know that, but also didn't know the just random payments that you have to pay throughout the year to to your county, and items like that. Like I didn't really know that until now. I mean, those can get pretty expensive, especially depending on where you live. Those can be pretty expensive. So on top of the home improvements, on top of the home maintenance, and then on top of the taxes that you would have to pay to your county, it tends to really add up, right? So you have to just be mindful for that. So that's why when people say they rent, like it's like, all right, cool. There's nothing wrong with renting. It's just not a long term play. But if you're doing it short term to get to your house, then that's smart. Like, I took the zero down payment first time home buyers, and I kind of wish I would have done it differently. But it worked out because we bought our house during COVID. So when we bought our house during COVID, we got obviously a really good deal because basically a lot of people were getting really solid deals on homes. So it kind of worked itself out that way. But going to my next home, being going through the process once, I already know one, I'm gonna take my time because if I do buy another home, it's going to be something that I want to stay in forever. I'm gonna look into the zoning. I'm gonna look if it has HOA because I'm personally not a fan of having HOA. I can mow my own grass, I can shovel my own stuff, and I don't like paying that much for getting permission to do something around the house. So I'm personally not a fan of HOA. Obviously be prepared for closing costs, be prepared for a down payment. So I actually want to have a down payment, a pretty nice chunk of a down payment for my next home. So, buying my first home, it definitely taught me a few things. So it's just a matter of making sure you have money set aside and money in reserves. So that way, when you do go buy your next home, you can get in at a lower mortgage payment monthly if you put the nice sizable down payment while having money on the side for repairs, fixes, and upkeep. So whether you need a new roof or if you need new HVAC, so these are things that you got to kind of be prepared for. So buying the home necessarily hasn't been a bad thing for me, just because how much equity we built in just a short amount of time in the home, just with the growth of the area, just with buying it at the COVID price compared to what houses are going for today. So overall, like, the purchase hasn't been bad. It just, I know going into next time, I'm not getting a COVID priced house. So I know going into next time that I have to do my research and actually be prepared when it comes to buying a second home, if that's the route that we take. All right. My last financial mistake. First of all, I'm 3% credit card utilization right now. So I got just a little bit left to pay off and I'm credit card debt free. Never thought I'd see the day, but here we are. So, if you need help with paying off your credit cards, just understand that you're going to have to make some sacrifices, some life changes in order to make that happen. Obviously, the first step is looking at your credit cards and, mapping out the balances with the interest rate and your monthly payments, right? And then really sitting down and making sure that you can make those changes. You should make them because it really hurts the growth of your money. So put it this way. So maxing out the credit cards, right? That was a terrible move for me in my early 20s or early mid 20s. I was just like, okay, I got the credit. I know I can make the minimum payment, so I'm going to do it. I didn't care about the interest rate. I didn't care about anything like that. I just cared about what my balance was and what my minimum payment was. Thought about it completely wrong, right? Maxing out the credit cards, what tends to happen is now you're depleting the money you can put towards your future on top of paying the interest to that bank or to that company. So this is what I mean, right? So if I have a credit card and a realistic, APY 26%, right? Let's just say 26% credit card and I owe like $4,000 on that credit card. I make my minimum payment. Let's just say the minimum payment's like $100, right? I make my minimum payment. Okay, cool. $100 minimum payment. But then once your billing cycle hits and you get the interest charge, that interest is going to be about $50 because of how high your interest rate is compared and how much you owe. It may be even higher than 50. So I put $100 in, and let's just say for simple math, $50 interest is charged. Only $50 came off the card that month, and then it'll repeat that cycle over and over and over. And that's why it takes so long to pay credit cards off because how high the interests are. And once you pay it off, once you pay it down, you can use it again. Maxing out my credit cards was definitely one of the biggest strains on our household, not only current time, but it's also a strain going into my future. Because currently, what happened was I was paying endless amount of money every month into my credit cards. So when that happens, that depletes the money I could save, that depletes the money I can invest, that depletes the money I can use for entertainment, because it's all going to debt. High, very high interest debt, mind you, as well. Like when you like this 18, 20 plus percent, some cards even go 30%. It's insane, right? It's insane. One of the things that, was a mistake was definitely maxing out those cards, but I can't dwell on that now. Only thing I can do now is just, pat myself on the back for the hard work I put in over the past few years to get that credit card utilization down to 3 and then paid off before 2026 closeout. So it's just taking the time to change and just taking that change and understanding that it's the betterment of your future. All right, so I just gave you 3 financial mistakes that I vowed to never make again. I can't beat myself up too much about it. Just because I didn't have the education, I didn't have the knowledge, and I didn't have the people around me like a mentor to guide me into those directions and just kind of say like, this is what you should be doing, right? So I had to figure a lot of this out on my own, and that's through trial and error. So that's kind of why, when I come and do this podcast, I talk about my personal experiences, because it's basically shedding a light that no one who is in finance is perfect, and everyone starts somewhere, just like the gym, right? If you go and you want to start working out, you're not going to start just pumping out 45s each side on the bench, right? You got to build your way up. And when I think about that, I think about the same way as investing, because the gym, you got to be disciplined. You got to be, you don't have to be perfect, but you got to be consistent. Same thing with finance. Don't have to be perfect. You got to be consistent, and consistent in the right ways, right? Making sure you get the right reps, making sure you're learning from your mistakes. So the lessons that I learned is yeah, you can leverage against the assets that you have, but you want the assets to build over time, and you don't want to take out loans from something like your 401k that can deplete your growth come towards retirement, right? So a lesson that I learned is if I'm going to borrow against assets, then I can look into other avenues. I can look into a HELOC. I can look into, a whole life insurance and let that build over time and then pull from the cash value onto that. So that's kind of something that I already started the process of last year, and I'm just kind of waiting for it to build. Again, buying a house. So kind of how I mentioned earlier, my next process, if we were to buy a house, the process next time is going to be much different. It's going to be a down payment. It's going to be research. It's going to be understanding the zones. It's going to be whether it has HOA or not. I currently don't have an HOA now, because that's one thing that, thank God that I looked into, and I want to keep it that way. Credit cards, like I don't even want to touch my credit cards again unless I absolutely have to, and I hope that I don't have to. And here's why. Because I know for me personally, a lot of people will pay off their credit cards and then they will, pay it off every month when they have, they use points, rewards for gas, mileage, travel, food, restaurants, things like that. So the reason why I want to get away from that is I personally am not disciplined enough to use my credit card and then pay it off every month just for the rewards. B, it's kind of enticing you to do the exact opposite of what you're trying to do. Because if you get 3 times the points of eating out, then you're going to go eat out because you think that, okay, let me go spend $50 for 3 times the points, and my points value is like $5. It doesn't really make sense. So the rewards is just a way for you to use the card and say, hey, we're going to thank you for all this money. And, you're not really paying interest because you're paying off every month, but you're still paying a lot to go out to eat just for rewards. When you can eat at home or reduce your eating, save your money, put it in the savings account, or invest that money and invest the difference. So when it comes to rewards and it comes to credit cards, it's kind of a mind game, because it's yeah, I get it, but at the same time, is your opportunity cost really worth the difference? Probably not. So now if you want to go We all have to get gas. So if you have a gas card, that's one thing, right? So you just got to be disciplined enough to pay it every month. For me personally, that's not me. I'm just going to take my money and put it elsewhere. So that's just kind of my thought process. I don't need rewards points. I need time in the market. I need to have funds in the market. So that's kind of where my thought process is at. Another lesson is, don't, letting others use credit cards and things like that if you don't think they're going to pay it back. Again, these are really high interest cards. So there's a lot that I learned over the past couple years. And the best thing I can say is stick to your plan, pay off your debt. I know it's going to be a slow process, but it's time that's going to win the race at the end of the day. Like the longer you're in doing this, the quicker you're able to pay off your debt, the more success and more money that you will have over time. And again, like I don't do this just to have, just to try to build wealth and money. Like I want to be comfortable. I want to spend more time with my family. I want to travel more. I want to go see my I want to go see my extended family, my other family. Like that's throughout, the East Coast, right? So in order to do that, I gotta find a way to make money, and I gotta find a way to build that, to build that egg nest. And this is the reason, because at the end of the day, this ain't just for me. It's for my family. It's for my household, because the memories that we're going to cherish over the next few years or down the road is going to be for all the hard work that I'm putting in here right now. So when we're going into this and we're trying to identify ways to make more money, a lot of times you don't, because even the high earners are check to check. Just look at the data. A lot of high earners are still check to check. So it's not about how much you make, it's about the habits that you have. That's really a big part of it. So people say, well, I need to make more money. Or if you get off of that $500, $600 credit card bills every month, that's $600 back into your pocket right there, right? So that alone is like a raise more than a raise per month if you get that back into your pocket. So you just have to kind of flex your mind a little bit. And then once you get everything, settled away and you start your investing, you really will see the benefits pay off. So, but that's all for me today. Again, I just wanted to really show you guys that no one's perfect in this game. Just know that we all make mistakes at some point, and just know it's not really about the mistake. It's about learning from it and growing from it. And that's my plan. It's exactly what I feel like I'm doing. So we'll see in 5 years' time where this takes me. And I'm really interested to see, what other blessings that can come my way. So again, thank you all. Y'all have a good day and enjoy the rest of your week.